Alrighty, we will all get started. Let me just pull up my notes here. Perfect. Hello and welcome everyone to American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. I'm Madeline, a senior dream curator here at DreamBank, and on behalf of my team, we're happy to have you with us. For those of you who have attended our virtual or in-person events, welcome back. And for those of you that are joining for the first time, we'd love to take a moment to introduce you to DreamBank. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. That's why we created DreamBank, an inspirational community, destination, and digital experience dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. Our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. Join Arliss Dudley-Cash in a deep dive on how our brains are wired to achieve success through self-love, walk away with simple, practical techniques to grow your self-love each and every day. Take it away.
Thank you so much. And I am just thrilled and honored to be here and really excited about the topic today. It's something that I'm super passionate about. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it makes such a difference. And I'm going to tell you more a little bit later about why I'm passionate about it. So we're going to dive in, and this is going to be interactive. So if you're on the webinar, I would love for you to open up your chat, because I'm going to be asking you to put things into the chat and to do different practices so that we can all learn together. So one of the things that I would love to share with you is a little bit of a secret. And this is probably the worst kept secret in all of Big Island, Hawaii, as it concerns me anyway, and that is that I am a huge, huge nerd. If you're a nerd, put into the chat that you are a nerd. I love science and evidence and research and all of those different things. So if we have some nerds in the house, just know that you're not alone. I'm a nerd too, and we're going to get nerdy with it and learn about the science of self-love. Madeline says she's a nerd. Thank you so much, Madeline. So I would love to ask everyone, how many thoughts do you think we have in a day? Do you think it's 100 thoughts? Do you think it's 1,000 thoughts? 10,000 thoughts? 100,000 thoughts? Put it into the chat. How many thoughts do you think that we have in a day? And as you're thinking about that, I'd like you to consider this. We actually have over 60,000 thoughts in a day. Over 60,000 thoughts. That is so many. And I'd love to ask you to think about what percentage of those thoughts do you think are negative? What percentage of those thoughts do you think are negative? And I see that the DreamBank is working on getting the chat going, but think about it. What percentage of those thoughts do you think are negative? Do you think it's 50%? Maybe you think it's 20%. Maybe you think it's 70%. Well, would it surprise you to learn that 80% of our thoughts are negative? 80% of our thoughts. When I first heard that, I was totally shocked. I could not believe that 80% of the thoughts of most people in the world are negative. And it made me wonder, what does that mean for us for being able to achieve success in our businesses and in our personal lives? Guess what, everyone? The chat is now live. Everybody put yes into the chat if you're excited to learn more about the science of self-love. P.E. Lonnie, Ro, Jennifer, I see you. I see you, Jill. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Okay, so I'd love to introduce you to one of my sheroes, one of the heroes in my world, which is Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. So she did biochemical research on what happens when our cells hear what we're saying to ourselves. And I have to say that when I first heard that this research existed, I was a little bit intimidated because I was like, do I really want to know this? But of course I want to know this, because by knowing this, I can create positive change. If you want to learn more about Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn and all of her research, I highly, highly recommend that you read the book, The Telomere Effect. It's really great and it has a lot of wisdom and expertise in it. Okay, so let's dive further into the science. So I see that Jill and Melissa and Tristan are all nerds. And so I can't wait to tell you all about the science. So negative self-talk equals stress. So when we speak negatively to ourselves, we create a stress response in the individual cells in our bodies. And when we create that stress, our cells start to wear down the ends of our DNA. The ends of our DNA are called the telomeres. And what are the ends of our DNA important for? Well, they're important for the prevention of illness and aging. Why is this important? It means that our cells, the little tiny cells in our bodies, are listening to us. They're listening to everything we say to ourselves and everything we say out loud. And if what they hear is negative, it can lessen our ability to stay healthy and to live long lives. Now, I don't know about you. I would love to see in the chat, anybody here wants to live a long, healthy life? Who wants to live a long and healthy life? I want to see it in the chat. Jennifer says, I do. Matthew says, I do. Jill and Maggie say, I do. And me, and Leilani says, me. Absolutely. We all want to live long and healthy lives. And you're probably thinking, but Arliss, you just said that this is what happens and it lessens our ability to do that. Well, guess what? What does this mean when we speak to ourselves in terms of self-love, right? Because I just showed you what happens when we speak negatively towards ourselves. But what happens when we speak positively towards ourselves? If we talk to ourselves in a positive manner, our cells hear that too. And they support us in living longer and healthier lives. How exciting is that? Give a big wahoo in the chat if you are excited that we can live longer, healthier lives if we just speak positively to ourselves. Molly says wahoo. Rose says wahoo. I'm going to say it out loud. When we speak positively to ourselves, our cells hear that too. And we're able to impact our health and our longevity. So who here wants to practice it? Put yes in the chat if you want to practice. If you want to practice doing this. Sarah says yes. Catherine says yes. Awana says yes. Tristan says yes. Okay, so we're going to practice. We're going to charge up our cells so that our cells can help us live longer, healthier lives. I want you, so we're all here in Zoom together. You might be able to, maybe you have a mirror near you. It's even more impactful if you can see yourself saying the words, but if not, that's fine. Because what I want you to do is I want you to think about if you had a personal cheerleader, and I'm telling you right now that if this was a job, this is what I would do. I would go to people's houses with pom-poms and cheer them on, because that's what I love to do. But I want you to imagine that you have your own personal cheerleader. It could even be me for today. And I want you to think about what would be the words that my personal cheerleader would say to me to cheer me on? What would be those words? And if you feel safe, you can put them in the chat. Maybe it's, I'm doing great today. My best is always good enough. I am worthy of love. I love myself. What are those words that you would want to hear from your own personal cheerleader? And then this is where the practice comes in. I want you to say them out loud to yourself, because guess what? You are your own personal cheerleader. Ah, Jill says, I'm proud of you, sweetie. Keep going. Matthew says, stay awesome. Catherine says, you got this. Tristan says, you got this, Tristan. Make them wait for it. Head turn, boom. Lonnie says, it's not too late to pursue my goals because I deserve to be happy too. Katie says, you're amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Renee says, God loves you. Rose says, I'm talented. Absolutely. And guess what? Your cells just heard that. Your cells just heard that. This is something that you can practice on your own. You can become your own personal cheerleader and boost that positivity in your cells, that positive response in your cells. And if you're having trouble with having negative thoughts, the first step to making a change is just noticing with non-judgmental curiosity that the negative thought is happening. Put on your investigator hat on and just notice when the negative thought happens. Don't judge it. Don't make it wrong. Just be like, oh, that happened. And then throughout time, you'll get to a place where you're able to switch to a more positive thought. So this is your first tool, which is to be your own cheerleader. Say the words out loud that cheer you on. Ebony says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Leilani says, I am beautiful in my unique way. Your second tool is to notice when negative thoughts are occurring with non-judgment so that you can move to a more positive place. So I told you all I was a nerd. And guess what? There's even more science. Who is excited for even more science? Well, I know I am. I can't even wait to share it with you. Let's give a big wahoo. Woo! Rose says, I am. I'm ready for more science. Okay, let's go. So self-love equals personal and professional success. When we are able to show ourselves love, we are gentler with ourselves. We're more mindful. We're kind to ourselves. We exhibit higher emotional intelligence. We also have self-compassion. And all of those things lead to us feeling and experiencing more success in our lives. And there is actually an area of the brain that is responsible for the processing of self-love. I was so excited about this because, as I told you, I'm a total nerd and I have a master's degree in neuroscience. And so when I learned that there was a whole area of the brain that was dedicated to self-love and self-esteem, I got pumped because it means that there's an area of our brain that we can activate to practice this in an even deeper way. So the area of our brain that processes self-love and self-esteem is the frontal striatal pathway. And this area of our brain is in this area in the brain towards the middle. The frontal striatal pathway is the bridge between the prefrontal cortex and the ventral striatum. One of the reasons why this is so important is because this self-love area, it connects to areas of our brain that are really important for decision-making and really important for our reward center of our brain. So if we have any business owners in the in the webinar today, how important is it to you, or even people that are working in jobs, right? Or are stay-at-home parents, things like that. How important is it to you that you make good decisions in your life? Is it 100% important? 10 out of 10 important? Or is it not important at all? Put it in the chat. How important is it to you that you make good decisions and feel motivated in your life? Jill says it's imperative. Casey says very important. Molly says 10 out of 10. Well, when we activate this pathway for self-love, we actually strengthen the areas of our brain that allow us to make better, more thoughtful decisions in our lives. And it also activates the reward center of our brain, which gives us more motivation in our businesses and lives. And motivation is also a huge key factor to having success in our businesses and our professional and personal lives. So what do you think a good self-love workout does for this frontal striatal pathway? Put it in the chat. What do you think a good self-love workout does to the frontal striatal pathway? What do you think it does? Casey says it makes it stronger. And guess what, everyone? It does. Ah, I love that. Casey says it makes it stronger. It does make it stronger. So when we give our frontal striatal pathway a good workout, it makes it thicker, stronger, and more highly active. And what happens when we love ourselves? Well, we feel more motivated and we're more likely to achieve our goals. And when we reward ourselves for our achievement, which is an act of self-love, we increase our motivation even more in our lives. And this is huge. So when we speak negatively to ourselves, so I want to take it back for a minute because we've talked a lot about the science of self-love, but I also feel like we should talk about the reality of what we all are experiencing in our society. And in the society that we've grown up in, it's really common to use negative motivation to motivate ourselves. It's really common to threaten ourselves or shame and blame ourselves into doing something. And what does that look like? It looks like, well, if you don't achieve, part A, then that means that you're a bad person or you don't deserve to achieve it or something like that. Or it could look like, if you don't do part A, then you don't get this reward that I've been telling you that I'm going to give you. And this is all the things that we've said to ourselves. And Renee, thank you so much for saying my parents did that. A lot of times our parents or some adult in our lives have used these tactics, especially around my favorite example. Well, and favorite I'm using loosely right now, but the easiest example to come up with is either you clean your room or you don't get your allowance, right? So a lot of people have experienced that. I want you to know that the adults in our lives were never doing this to harm us. They were using the tools that they were given at the time. And we have new tools now. And we have to realize when we're doing these things to ourselves, because we've normalized it from the time that we were children, that saying, oh, you don't get this unless you do that. Or if you don't do this, this means that about you. And we believe on some level that shaming and blaming and threatening ourselves will lead to the achievement of our goals. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't. Okay. Negative self-talk does not equal achieving our goals. It does not equal positive emotionality. And it does not equal learning from our challenges. It just doesn't. If shame and blame and threats worked, everybody would drive the speed limit and everybody would pay their taxes. And guess what? That's not what happens in our reality, right? So what we do know is that when we are speaking to ourselves in self-compassion and self-love, This is what results in goals and goals being achieved and positive emotions and learning from our challenges and increasing our success in our personal life and our professional life. And what's the secret sauce to resiliency? Well, the secret sauce to resiliency is self-compassion. It allows us to bounce back from setbacks and achieve our goals with greater enthusiasm. So one of the fun facts that I love is they did a research study in 2020 on businesses that survived the pandemic, the shutdowns during 2020. Okay, so they looked at businesses that were big and small. They looked at businesses that had a lot of money in the bank before the shutdowns or very little money in the bank. They looked at businesses that had employees or no employees, or they also looked at like who received grant money or services during the shutdowns and who didn't. They also looked at the attributes of the business owners. And you know what the number one thing that set the businesses apart that survived the pandemic was? It was self-compassion by the business owner. That was the biggest thing that set them apart. The ability of the business owner to be self-compassionate towards themselves and show compassion to the people around them. When I heard that, it was amazing that self-compassion can make such a huge difference on the outcomes of success in the professional world. Thank you, Molly, for the heart. Isn't that amazing? Self-compassion is an act of self-love. And so self-love really is one of the biggest things we can do to ensure our personal and professional success. And Sherry asked a question, to what degree does compassion for others help? So compassion for others helps greatly. And one of the aspects of self-compassion is our ability to know common humanity. So when we know common humanity, it means that we know that other people have experienced the same challenges that we've experienced too. And that's a way of showing compassion outside of ourselves. And one of the things that we can grow through self-compassion is our sense of mindfulness. And that's going to bring us to our next technique. So who here wants to do a workout meditation? Who wants to work out their frontal striatal area of their brain? Matthew says me, Rose says I do, Sarah says yes, Jill says I do. Okay, so we're going to do a short 2-minute meditation, just 2 minutes. So I invite you to find a comfortable position for your body. I invite you to take a deep breath in, and if it feels good to you, go ahead and close your eyes. If closing your eyes doesn't feel like an option, take a soft gaze on something in the distance. I invite you to think of an area of your body that maybe you've had a challenge with. Maybe you felt a sense of shame or judgment around that area of your body, or maybe it was an area of your body that experienced dis-ease. And if it's available to you, I'd like you to place your hand on that area of your body. Under your hand, I want you to visualize that area of your body filling up with beautiful golden light of self-love. And I want you to say to that area of your body, I love you. I see you. I hear you. I'm listening to you. Feel into that moment of self-love in that area of your body. I invite you to take another deep breath in and let it out and open your eyes. Self-love is not always easy, but we can choose to keep it simple, just like that meditation. 2 minutes. How profound was that meditation? And you might be asking me, Arliss, why do you care about this so strongly? The reason that I care is because in 2013, I was 28 years old. I was sitting on the crinkly paper on a table in a hospital room. And across from me sat a doctor that said, Arliss, you've been diagnosed with a rare genetic condition. We don't expect you to live more than a year. There is no cure. In that moment, I realized that I had almost worked myself to death, that I had shamed and blamed and threatened myself into overworking and speaking negatively to myself and worn myself down to the point where I literally put my life on the line. I don't want anyone ever to experience that again. That's why I teach on self-love. Because as soon as I decided to fall in love with myself and start loving myself, my whole life changed. I did a lot of things to improve my health with the help of my doctors and with the help of the other people in my life, my support system. And a critical turning point for me was just practicing self-love the way that we talked about it today. So again, notice when negativity is happening for you. Don't be judgmental, just notice. Number 2, be your own cheerleader. Say those words out loud that you need to hear to cheer yourself on. And 3, practice meditation where you send love to different parts of your body. Through the practice of self-love, we are more likely to be healthier, live longer, feel more motivated, achieve our personal and professional goals, learn from challenges, bounce back from setbacks, and show more resiliency. Put a big wahoo in the chat if you find that exciting. Woo! If you have any questions, I'm here. If you'd like to connect with me, here's my information. Thank you for coming to today's workshop, and I hope that it gave you just a couple of tools to deepen your self-love. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know I was taking some notes alongside of the presentation. I really appreciate that. One thing, self-love, I feel like is a practice for me. I will never master it totally. There's peaks and valleys. But for myself personally, I find it significantly easier most days to be nicer to other people than myself. And so on particularly dark days for my self-love journey, I kind of do almost like a warm-up session where I'll say like really nice things, because it's a pandemic, I spend most of my time with my husband. So I'll give him 3 compliments, and then I'll give myself 1, but almost like I have to get into the mindset of being nice to others. And then it's a little easier for me to be nice to myself, because I recognize if I'm this nice to other people, I should be even nicer to myself, and have different expectations. I shouldn't have different expectations for myself that I wouldn't have for other people. So that is one thing that I have on particularly challenging days. I have to do warm up compliments for other people and then extend that grace and that love to myself. So I don't know if that helps anyone else, but that is one thing that I have been working on in my self-love journey. I also like to leave myself post-it notes, or anything that I've done a really particularly good job on, or I'm really proud of. I'll write it down just in a journal, and I have this success journal, whether it's at work or I hosted a really cool party, whatever it is, or I even made a really cool Mother's Day gift for my mother-in-law. I just write it down, and so then on days where it's a little harder to even think of something, I look at my past success. So, or even days where I'm facing a new obstacle, I look at the things I've overcome. So those are just some tips and tricks that I have done over the years. But I would love to hear eventually what some of you have been doing. But thank you so much. Next week, we have another great event coming. So please feel free to sign up for that and enjoy the rest of your week, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.